In 1900, in the heart of West Africa, a grandmother stood before her people. Her hands were trembling, not from fear, but from fury. Before her stood the British Empire, the mightiest force on earth. Behind her, a nation on the edge of despair. Her name was Yaa Asantewaa, and that day, she declared war on an empire. This is the story of the Queen Mother who refused to kneel, the warrior who led men into battle when kings had fallen silent, the woman whose courage ignited the last great war of African resistance, the War of the Golden Stool. Imagine a kingdom forged in gold, power, and pride. This was the Ashanti Empire. By the 19th century, it ruled the dense, rich forests of modern-day Ghana. Its capital, Kumasi, was a spectacle of wealth, gleaming with golden ornaments, vibrant silk cloth, and the thrum of sacred drums. But above all, one symbol held the very spirit of the nation, the Golden Stool. According to legend, this sacred object wasn't carved by human hands. It descended from the heavens, carrying the soul of the Ashanti people. It was never to be sat upon, not even by the king. It was more than a throne. It was the living embodiment of their unity, their strength, their identity. To touch it was to defile the nation. To possess it was to possess their soul. For centuries, the Ashanti had fiercely resisted European control, but the tide was turning. In the late 1800s, the British, driven by an insatiable hunger for gold and imperial power, began their final conquest of West Africa. They were ruthless. They had already burned Kumasi to the ground once, back in 1874, leaving a scar on the heart of the empire. But they weren't finished. In 1896, they delivered a devastating blow. The British exiled the Ashanti king, the Asantehene Prempeh I, sending him thousands of miles away to the Seychelles Islands. The people mourned. Their leader was gone, their morale shattered, and a shadow of despair fell over the land. But in the royal court of Edweso, one woman refused to surrender. Her name was Yaa Asantewaa, the Queen Mother. While others saw defeat, she saw a line that could not be crossed. 4 years later, in 1900, the British governor, Sir Frederick Hodgson, made a fatal miscalculation. He was arrogant, blind to the culture he sought to dominate. Standing before the assembled Ashanti chiefs, he made an unthinkable demand. He wanted the Golden Stool brought to him, so that he, a foreign conqueror, could sit on it. His words were nothing short of blasphemy. The chiefs sat in stunned, horrified silence. The air crackled with tension. Who would dare respond to such an insult? No one moved. No one spoke. The men who were supposed to lead seemed frozen by the audacity of the demand. Then, from the crowd, Yaa Asantewaa rose to her feet. She looked around at the silent men, her eyes blazing with indignation, and she spoke words that would echo through history, words that would become a battle cry for freedom. She declared, "Is it true that the bravery of the Ashanti is no more? I cannot believe it. It cannot be. I must say this. If you, the men of Ashanti, will not go forward, then we, the women, will. I shall call upon my fellow women. We will fight. We will fight till the last of us falls in the battlefields." The room, once filled with tense silence, erupted. One by one, the warriors began to nod, their shame turning to resolve. Their courage, seemingly lost, was reignited by her fire. On that day, Yaa Asantewaa, a grandmother, a queen mother, became the commander-in-chief of the Ashanti army. She was the first woman in their history to lead a war against European colonizers. The war began in March of 1900. Leading an army of thousands, Yaa Asantewaa laid siege to the British fort in Kumasi. For months, the British were trapped, cut off, surrounded, and desperate, with their rations dwindling by the day. Yaa Asantewaa's strategy was brilliant. She knew the land intimately. She used the dense forest as a shield and a weapon, cutting British supply lines and launching relentless ambushes on their reinforcements. The sound of Ashanti war horns and drums echoed through the trees, a constant unnerving reminder to the invaders that they were not welcome. The British called it the Ashanti Rebellion. But to her people, this was a sacred struggle, the war for the soul of the nation. As the historian Robert Adofening writes, she embodied the spirit of defiance. Where kings hesitated, she commanded. Her courage reawakened a people's pride. She was not just a military leader, she was the spiritual heart of the resistance. But the British Empire did not yield easily. The response was relentless and overwhelming. Reinforcements armed with Maxim machine guns, the devastating new technology of warfare, arrived from the coast. The fight was brutal. The British burned villages one after another, attempting to break the will of the people. By September 1900, after 6 long, bloody months of heroic resistance, the Ashanti capital fell once more. The war was lost. Yaa Asantewaa was captured, and in a final act of humiliation, exiled to the Seychelles, the same remote island prison where her king was held captive. But even in exile, Yaa Asantewaa remained unbroken. She spent her final years tending small gardens, teaching the young children of the exiled court, and speaking of the freedom she knew would one day come. When she passed away in 1921, she was still a prisoner of the British Empire. But her story had already become a legend, spreading like wildfire across Africa. Her sacrifice was not in vain. The fire she lit continued to burn. 36 years after her death in 1957, Ghana became the first sub-Saharan African nation to gain its independence from colonial rule. And when the people of Ghana raised their new flag for the very first time, they did so in the shadow of her memory, remembering her words, her defiance, her incredible courage. Today, in Kumasi, a museum proudly bears her name. Every young girl and boy who visits learns the story of the grandmother who led an army against the greatest empire on earth, all to protect the soul of her nation. Her story is a powerful testament to a simple truth: empires fall, but courage endures. Yaa Asantewaa never lived to see her homeland free, but her spirit became a flame that inspired freedom fighters across the continent, from Kenya to Nigeria, from the Congo to South Africa. Her story reminds us that true power doesn't come from armies, guns, or crowns. It comes from the unbreakable spirit of those who refuse to kneel. Thanks for watching. If you were inspired by the story of Yaa Asantewaa, the African queen who defied the British Empire, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of legendary figures who changed the world. See you next time.